I am Adam Weil, partner at White Rabbit Group. Welcome to the Pixel Perfect podcast, where we share knowledge, experiences, and motivations from creatives and entrepreneurs. All right, in this episode, we're joined by Elizabeth Amstutz, Chief People Officer at Empower Ocean Media Group and a seasoned agency leader. She's got over 30 years in the media business, so a lot of experience here. Over the course of her career, Elizabeth has held senior leadership roles across media, strategy, operations, executive management. So I think her perspective is really unique. It gives her a rare kind of full spectrum view of how high performing agencies actually scale. So at Empower Media right now, she's sitting at kind of the intersection of talent, clarity, and like performance. So shaping the systems, the expectations, and the cultural standards that enable teams to move with more speed and confidence. So we're excited to have this conversation. We're going to talk about how leading media organizations separate signal from noise, design OKRs that stretch the team's performance, and build cultures where growth is everyone's responsibility. So, Elizabeth, very excited to have you on.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah. Yeah, let's dive into it. I'm going to kind of jump into the deep end of the pool here because this is a fascinating topic. Like media right now, it moves fast. There's lots of changes. Trends change overnight. So, how do you make sure that the teams are chasing the right things?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something we've been very focused on over the last year in running an organization, a signal versus noise organization, really. Um, so we know in media and advertising and marketing in general, there's so much going on all the time. Like you said, so many changes, so many asks, so many tasks that need to be done. But what we try
Right.
to do is focus the entire organization on what are those priorities that will have the most impact, right? Not just action, but like what are those priorities going to have an impact? And we do that at an organizational level. We do that at a team level. And honestly, we do that at an individual level, um,
Mm.
building off our OKRs. So it's something that we're talking about all the time because that provides that clarity to the team so they always
Yep.
know where their focus should be.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So that prioritization, I keep hearing that more and more these days. I feel like there's so many things that can grab our attention, so many
Yeah.
ways we can work on things. But if you're not working on the highest priority item, right, you're not going to use the most leverage to move things forward. Um,
Yeah. And I would say
so
it's even more than
yeah.
priority. It's like, because everyone can have a different priority at some point. I think it's what
Yep.
is that action or that focus area that is going to really drive the impact for our clients first and foremost, and at
Mm,
that higher level than just the sort of day-to-day task that we need to
yeah.
do.
So, we've talked about OKRs before. We've really explored that concept. I think sometimes they can feel a little bit corporate. How do you make them more relevant,
Yeah.
especially for like a creative media team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the OKRs we build, and especially this year, as we're just rolling them out across the organization. We've rolled them out, but we're really getting down to the individual level, and it is pushing to a point that's a bit uncomfortable, right?
Mm,
Especially for the expectations that we set. We set very high expectations for our teams, but by by really focusing in on those core OKRs that will drive that impact, we can get people focused in the right area again and really um, providing that clarity that allows them to be creative,
mm,
between the signals and the focus, the OKRs that are guiding posts for the year for the business. We can
mhm.
help provide that clarity, and we talk about it over and over again because what is it, a frequency of 10, 15 is what you need. We want to make sure that we're always um,
Yeah.
talking about it, but also it changes over time too, so you have to be open to that change.
Right. Right. Yeah, you've mentioned kind of this the signal versus noise. What does that mean, I guess, in your world and in the media world? And like, why is that distinction so important?
As I said at the beginning, there's so much noise in this industry, and sometimes it's easier to focus on those, you know, little things that keep popping up. And so, um, again, I think it's important so that we're all going in the same direction. For one, that we're thinking about, we're a media agency at our core, but we're much more than that, and we're really pushing to think everyone needs to be thinking about the business holistically and what are the higher level business challenges. So those signals help us think more broadly and provide clarity on where everyone should be focusing and moving towards help grow the business, not just deliver on that media plan or deliver on that POB, for example.
Right, right. Yeah, so much of the business that we're in is about the people.
Right,
At the end of the day, the company is really just a collection of the people. Um, so and I would say, especially in the media side, it tends to be full of creative talent. So how do you make sure that the people that you hire and bring on like really thrive there?
right. Well, I think there's a couple things that are super important, no matter where you are, right? And that is setting expectations, making sure people understand what those expectations are,
Hmm.
transparency and what those expectations are, but also clarity in the role, in what it takes to succeed in a entrepreneurial agency like we have, for example. I just got done with an interview actually, and one of the questions that candidates often ask is, what does it take to succeed there? And it's
Hmm.
all about, being really clear that we are looking for people that are always, we want people leaning in, we want people raising hand, we want people working at a higher level, um, and understanding where our focus is as an agency and focusing on our client's business. So,
Right. And is that obviously that's part of the culture. How do you make sure that gets felt throughout?
right. Um, a lot of different ways. I mean, we have regular syncs with not only the agency, but also the teams. Um, and there's a lot of consistency in the way that we talk about things and the way that we're building. We're also, again, like I said, when you have clear OKRs and expectations, everyone knows that, um, we're looking for them to be thinking outside the box, to be bringing those really creative ideas that don't have to be just media specific, and actually better if
Mm,
they're not media specific, um,
mm, mm,
because those bigger ideas and those creative ideas are what is going to drive our client's business in the end, and
mm.
what the CEOs and the CMOs care about,
Right.
really. I mean,
Mhm.
we still have to do our day to day, but really pushing to make sure that we're delivering for that higher level client as well.
It seems like there's an interesting balance where what you're describing, what I'm hearing is kind of you want to develop like independent thinkers,
Yep.
right? People that are thinking about it holistically, that they're questioning things in a constructive way. But we're also talking about OKRs and staying
Yeah.
focused. And so it's kind of an interesting balance there, right? How do you
Yeah.
how do you think about that?
That is interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, I think when you build OKRs, they're broad enough that, I mean, they're a focus area, but they're broad enough that they can translate in different ways depending on the work that you do or the work that typically do in a day, and how you
Hmm.
come at it from a investment standpoint or a strategy standpoint might be a little bit different, but does give some focus, so that we can create bigger solutions and bigger ideas for the agency
Mm,
and for the client by doing that. So there is
right.
flexibility there. There is, like I said, we go all the way down to the individual level. What are, you know, employee A, you're awesome at this. And, here's our OKRs, and what area do we want you to grow in? Is we can tie
Mm-hmm.
that to an OKR so that they're not only growing, but they understand exactly how to get there, um,
Mm.
and tie it back to an agency, you know,
Yeah, makes sense.
overall.
How do you balance the client deliver? Obviously, the client is important. You need them to,
Kind of-
pay the bills and,
Yeah,
support the team. But you also need obviously your team to be able to support the client. It's
yeah,
it's obviously reciprocal. So how do you think about that? Like how do you balance client delivery with like developing your talent
yeah.
at the same time?
Well, I mean, we can't do what we do without the people. We have some amazing people, and everybody wants to grow and learn. Um, Again, I think it comes back to accountability, expectations. Like we're pretty clear about, one of our first values is clients first. Clients are the most important, but we can't do it without our people. So, really making sure that they have the tools that they need, the direction they need, that their managers are being held accountable for helping them to grow, but also to deliver for the clients. I think that's a big one, um,
Yeah.
that we're focusing on a little more as we move forward as well.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, so much of media, especially these days with all the tools, is very numbers driven. It's very analytical.
Yeah.
So how do you combine the analytics with like that human creativity side? How do you think about
Yeah.
how those two play together?
Well, I think if you have strong analytics and you really focus in on what's important, then that just frees up room to be more creative. So you know what you're focusing on, and then you can take that to the next level. And how do you bring that human element to translate that data or that insight to something that will impact the client's business, the media plan, um, and really drive their business forward.
Right, right. Well, do maybe you have like an unconventional take on this, like as far as leading creatives in media? I was just wondering what's your take on that? Do you have anything that's a little bit contrarian or unconventional about how you approach it?
Leading creatives, you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting being in the business a long time, right? It was always creative leading media, and then it sort of transformed to media and the front of the bus, as we like to say.
Yeah.
And then, I think it's been really interesting with all the data and channels and approaches to client business that it it absolutely has to be uh an effort together to work on the business and drive the business. But um I don't know if I have a contrarian approach to that. It's just I've been in media for my whole career, and
Mm,
when you have strong media ideas and insights, I mean, you have to go to a broader level, which is about the
mhm.
cultural moments, understanding what's going on in the world and how that can translate all the way down to a media plan. So that can happen at
Mhm.
a creative agency, that can happen at a media agency. It really should come from wherever, and then work together and collaborate to deliver that to the client.
Right, right. Yeah, it's kind of part art, part science, it sounds like.
For sure, for sure. I mean, a lot of people talk about media being the numbers, but if it was just numbers, that wouldn't be very fun. But the numbers are super important because they can help us tell a story that's more creative and can bring, those insights really to life for our
Sure.
clients and to the ideas that
Mhm.
we bring to the table every day.
Right. Any thoughts on attracting talent? I was just talking with someone recently, Sean Kessler, and he was talking about how AI is now kind of reading, Reddit comments and threads about companies, and obviously Glassdoor and those sort of things. And he's described it as moving beyond sort of your careers page and now thinking about it more holistically. I do see a lot of media agencies out there, and there's a lot of different approaches. But how do you think about making sure you attract, the right talent? Do you think that's a primary focus for Empower, or do you also? I think some agencies think about it like they can take anyone that has any skill level and through onboarding and
Yeah.
training really raise them up. How do you think about that?
I don't agree with the last one. I will say we are absolutely about attracting the best talent, and
Okay.
we have conversations with a lot of candidates, and we're very transparent about what the expectation is here and what the need is, and that you know,
Mm,
especially when you have people a holding company versus independent, it's very different. I've worked at both amazing, but I do appreciate an independent environment, but people need to understand what they're walking into. Um, as
mm,
media people, you wear a lot of hats to start with, but in entrepreneurial organization, and especially one like ours where we're trying to build something that doesn't really even exist, I would say, um, they have to be so curious, so willing to know that they're going to be working down, working up, working across,
mm,
be expected to bring thought leadership on a regular basis. So it's really about that, the opportunity and the excitement. I mean, it's exciting for many people to be in that environment. And some it's not, and that's okay, but you want to make sure you kind of weed those people out that might not succeed. You want people to succeed, and that's our goal.
right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. How do you think about it in terms of client acquisition, attracting the right clients? Because I think sometimes a client might not necessarily be the right fit for a certain type of agency,
Mhm.
depending on how they're structured.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that in terms of marrying the two, making sure you have the right client that fits with you guys as well?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think, we have been very specific about how we work with our clients. We have some really awesome clients right now. And I think what's most important is that we have the relationships across every level of the organization, which actually I
Mm,
haven't seen in a lot of my past work. The Clarks are incredible at building those relationships, and they are in the business. They know our client's business, and they're in it every single day. And that makes a
mm,
huge difference. So looking for those clients that, you know, are wanting to build that relationship, but also that um, you know, that are open to doing things a little bit differently. Everybody wants to move at speed. That's definitely a focus of ours. Speed is a strategy, really, and
yeah.
wanting to work together to think again more broadly about business. We don't want to be nobody wants to be a vendor or considered a vendor. You want to be a partner. You want to be part of that business. Um, and so we're looking for
Right.
clients that allow us to be part of that business and helping them to grow um, alongside
Right.
us.
Yeah, that's great. And then I love the idea of just being able to integrate with their team and not just have a single point of contact, but really have relationships with all different folks over there at different levels.
Right.
I think it allows you to be viewed as that partner, right? And not like a transactional vendor. And then it's easier for people to view you as valuable at that point, right? Not just kind of a
Yeah.
commodity.
And that is, something the Clarks believe in so strongly. And, we talk about on a regular basis because, you know, you're going to find different needs at different levels of the organization, different priorities. And so, really making sure that we're communicating that up and down so that we are delivering um, for the clients across all of their needs, which are the day to day, all the way up to like, how am I going to grow my business in, over the next 2 years? And, what
Hmm.
do I need to be thinking about from what's going on in the culture right now that's going to impact my business and what can I do about it? Not just from a media perspective, a creative perspective, marketing,
Yeah.
in store, whatever that looks like.
Right. Right. How do you think about the future? I guess if you were to, I'll ask a couple questions around this, but I'm curious. Like, if you were to make a big bet on something, I feel like this industry is a little bit volatile right now. People feel like there's change, coming about. Is there anything that you think is a near certainty or something that you're betting on happening over the next maybe 3 to 5 years out? What do you think that might look like?
Hmm. From a media perspective or just
Yeah, from the
in
media.
general?
Yeah.
Um, I think it changes all the time, right? So it's a little bit, again, we're looking at some of these future forward cultural moments. I think Ashley just distributed some thought leadership on the silver generation. So there's always something that's going to be coming um,
Mhm.
next. But I think that the change is going to be, I believe, where we're going, which is thinking about that business push, that really, what can we do to help, each of our clients think about their business 1 or 2 years out, and what can we
Mm,
bring to the table that is differentiating for them on a regular basis. So again, I think it
right.
changes over time, but we have
Yeah.
to be ahead of it. We always have to be ahead of it.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Tell the listeners like where they can follow your journey and also Empower's journey.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's an exciting time for us. So Empower Media has been around for 40 years. But as many have read in the trades, we are now Empower Ocean Media Group. So we acquired Ocean Media. So there'll be some big news in the spring. So just look forward
Mm,
to hearing more about that, probably mostly on LinkedIn. And you'll see our fearless CEO, Ashley Clark, and many articles outside of LinkedIn as well, but more to come there. So it's exciting time for
great.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look forward to watching you guys continue to evolve. It's amazing. Been in business for so long, and it just feels like it's more exciting than ever.
Yeah.
And with the acquisition
Yeah.
and where you're headed. So I'm excited to follow along. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Adam. Good to see you.
Thank you for listening to the Pixel Perfect podcast, where we go down the rabbit hole on the journey and motivations of creatives and entrepreneurs. Stay tuned for more stories to come. Until next time.